Greetings, family, friends, and survivors. I'm up at Dad's trying to keep plugging away on his system. His emergency backup power is functioning. I've had this in for a couple of years, but I haven't finished the solar side. It's got a 200 amp double pole, double throw generator switch. And I have a pilot light right here that shows when we're on shore power. It's off right now because the only circuit that I had was a 30 amp circuit, and I've got 15 amp wire, so I need to buy a Federal Pacific double pole 15 amp breaker, and then I can leave that LED pilot light on, and that way when they look out the window from the bedroom, they're able to see when shore power comes back on. They'd be able to come out and switch the generator switch back to shore power and either turn the generator off or turn the battery power off. So what we have here is my old inverter. It's 3600 watt trace. Really nice inverter, modified sine wave, but it just really has a lot of power. 24 volt system. It's got 8 golf cart batteries, and we're 2-aught cable, and I have like an emergency cutoff switch here. Usually I put these on the negative, but I only had the cabling to do it on the positive side on this one. It is fused, 250 amp. Got the Victron shunt installed, and that's all I did today is put the Victron battery monitor in. And I'm not as familiar with it as I am the Bogart Trimetric. So it's got 0.010 amps going in. The battery's clear full, 0 watts. No amp hours have been used. The battery's at 100%. So a couple minutes ago there was 6 watts going in the batteries, and they're just topped up and doing fine. So the way we run the system is if the power goes out, throw this switch, and this generator cord right here, it's a monster 4 conductor wire, and it plugs into this. And so when the power goes out, you just hook that up and throw that switch on, and now the whole house is running on battery power. If the batteries get low, been a snowy day, 3 or 4 days in a row, then what Dad would do is he would come out and plug this into the generator. And there's a 12,000 watt generator that sits right here. And what that'll do is pump water up to the gravity tank and bulk the batteries so that I think it's a 100 amp charger, something like that. And it's 70 amps or 80 amps, I don't remember now. Mine at the house is 105, so I can't remember past what I have at home. But we did run that 2.5 years. So fire up the generator, and the generator charges the batteries back up. And that's great for, a snowstorm, a week-long power out snowstorm. They'd be fine. Run the house off the battery system and run the generator 3 or 4 hours a day, and that'll keep the refrigerator up, and the freezer up, and the heater on, and all of that stuff, and just run the generator enough to keep the batteries recharged. The other part of the system, I bought the solar panels, and we've got all the hardware. Dad recently bought a Make Sky Blue solar charge controller. And I've got the right circuit breakers and another load center to install. But the thing is, the solar panels are not installed yet. See, the northeast wind is pushing the fire southwest, which is way not good. Right now you see $8 Mountain in the background with the communication tower up on top there. The fire's been burning up the backside of $8, but they put 3 hotshot crews on it, and then he went up and prepped all the comm systems on top of the mountain, and I think they've got it. So now off to the left of the mountain and back, Mike's Gulch, they're trying to do burnouts there, but we're going to have wind for 3 days, and if it doesn't jump $8 Mountain Road, or what's called Babyfoot Lake Road, if it doesn't jump that in the next 3 days, we're probably out of the woods. If it does jump that, right now the evac order number 1 goes from Grants Pass to the coast. So if you want to get on the map and look on Highway 199, it goes from Grants Pass to the coast. Everything west of 199 is evac 1, and that'll probably be dropped by Monday or Tuesday, or it'll go to evac 2 for the next town over, which is Kirby. At any rate, you probably didn't need to know all that. On the roof of the shop is where Dad's solar array is going to go, and believe it or not, because of that tree line right up there, our best winter sunlight that's close enough to the house to do any good is on the roof of the shop. So I went up there on December 21st and looked and did all the measurements there. We were actually able to see the sun that day, and that's a pretty good spot, and that's a real nice close distance to go to the generator shed, the back of the house, with some solar wire, since we're going with the MPPT. So I just need to, the thing is, I want to re-roof the shop because I'm going to put a solar array over it, and that's kind of permanent. So if the roof underneath is needing some work, you probably ought to do that before you put the solar array up. So that's what I'm waiting on. I have the metal. What I don't have is enough of me. So we serviced the Yamaha generator. It's got 76 hours on it. It's a big twin cylinder guy, and the idea is get the solar going and get it lined out, and then we're going to get a conversion kit for the Yamaha, and we've got propane from the main tank for the house piped in right there. So the Yamaha will be running on propane at that point, and we'll have 940 watts worth of solar for this house, which is just one step closer to taking this home completely off the grid. This is a new range, propane range, and we have the matching microwave, which is already installed. We've got propane already to the dryer and propane stubbed out to the kitchen, but we need to change the electric range out for this guy. And then, even though this is only 3 years old, we're going to change this water heater out to one that's just like the one at my house, and that'll really cut down on the cost, and that'll get us pretty close to being off grid. If we had a long-term grid down situation here at this house, we made those changes where they could cook. Yeah, you can cook on the wood stove, but that's a hassle. Maybe you want to bake a pie. We get the propane oven in, and that'll take a tremendous load off the system. And then in a long-term grid down, they could make it work. They'd probably have to turn a freezer off and use just one refrigerator freezer, can everything else, and I think we could make a go of it here. And then of course we can add to the system. There's plenty of sunlight up here at Dad's. We just have to put in the solar. So initially it was a backup system, because what was happening is when the power goes out, and it does often in snowstorms, then they'd have to come out and light the generator and do their cooking and, you know, bump the freezer and the refrigerator with the generator for a couple hours, and then the rest of the time they'd be walking around with oil lamps. And I thought, well, that's not acceptable. And it's a big house, and it has a wood stove, propane heaters, and an oil furnace. Well, the oil furnace isn't going to work if the generator's off. So first thing to do was secure those priorities, which is heating and refrigeration. Since we have gravity feed water here, it's not an issue to worry about having a power source that can run the well pump at this point. All right, said enough, probably more than you need to know. This Victron 702 is the one that you can use the battery temperature probe with, which is another 20 bucks, and I just don't need it. I don't need to know what temperature the batteries are. The charge controller needs to know what the temperature of the batteries are. And as you could see, the Trace already has a probe. So I don't think I'll spend the money and get one for that. The 712 unit is Bluetooth and will talk to your smartphone through an app. I don't need that either. However, there's quite a bit of data line there, Ethernet cable, and I'll run that into the living room, or excuse me, the bedroom in the house, and put it on the wall so they can walk out into the bedroom and look and see what the state of charge is with the batteries, and then decide whether they need to go start the generator or not. Otherwise, you're in the dark. You have no idea. You'd have to come out here and turn everything off and get out a voltage test meter and test the battery bank. A battery monitor is just the only way to go. You just got to get one. And then, of course, it has to be calibrated. And the way you calibrate a battery monitor is by what your refractometer says when you test the electrolyte in your battery bank, because refractometers don't lie. Okay, have a blessed day.